Right, hi lads and lasses, welcome to Darts Hints, Tips and Advice with Dynamite Dave. Subject we're going to broach today is something that I've been promising to do for quite a long time, and that's let's have a quick look at the mental side of the game. What I'm intend to do is make 3 or maybe 4 videos on different aspects of the mental side of the game. So what I want to do today is I want to address the first 5 points. Now the first 5 points are the mental side of the game. I would say first and foremost is about 80% of your actual playing of darts. The physical side of it is a small part, because getting the actual sequence of events, the things that you do, everything right in your mind first will affect dramatically the way that you actually play. As I say, as I've gone through with before in my other videos, stance and addressing the board, all that sort of stuff, that's the physical side of the game. But something that runs along with that, and which is far more important, is the mental side of the game. So that's point number 1, is the mental side of the game is about 80% of your actual game of darts. Because how many of us have said, and I've said this millions of times before, you can play a 40, 50 average in your bedroom. As soon as you get to the pub, you're down to a 25, 30 average. You throw in 26s, you throw in 22s, you throw in 7s and 3s and 15s. And all that is that's part of the mental side of the game. It's part of your self-confidence, which you can build up. It's your focus, which you can tighten up. So, number 2 in what I'd like to say is getting ready to practice. The right attitude, the right approach, and you should always have the attitude of I will, I can, and I am. In other words, I will practice properly, I will do it in a structured manner, I can achieve the goals that I set for myself, and it's quite important that you set yourself some goals. And I am going to get out, I am going to play in the pub, I am going to pay people that I've never played before. These are big steps when you first start playing darts, because we're all the same. Early on in our darting experience, we're all the same. We're all worried to death about playing other people because we don't know how good they are. But at the end of the day, it's just as nerve-wracking for them because they don't know how good we are either. So like I say, 99% of it is a confidence thing. Number 3 in what I wanted to talk about was gimmicks and devices. Do these gimmicks for practicing with, do they actually work, or are they really just a placebo? Basically, why would somebody with 2 good legs walk around with crutches? You wouldn't, would you? So why do you need, if you're a perfectly reasonable dart player, why do you need bits of paper to cover the dartboard? Why do you need but basically fake rubber bands that are in a circle for you to throw at? What you need to do is have a structured practice regime and a good attitude to practice, and a good positive attitude. If you go to the board believing every day that you can achieve that one little step. Now there's one thing that I want to interject and put in here. When you go and practice, say you're early on in your darting, or you could be at a pretty advanced level, we all have peaks and troughs. And your troughs usually come through a lapse in your concentration power or your focus power. The way to build those back up again, and the way that I build those back up again, is as soon as I get a marked dip in my performance, I go right back to basics. I go and do a practice session where the first thing I do is I go to the board as if I've never played before. And I stand there, I make sure I get my foot position right, I make sure that the way that I'm standing is correct, I make sure that the way that I'm fetching my arm up is correct, I'm getting it nice and level, and I'm throwing the darts. And it used to take sometimes up to a couple of days for that level of confidence and that level of achievement to come back. Whereas now, it usually comes back to me within an hour or an hour and a half. So even if I'm going to a competition and I've had a bit of a fall to bits the day before, I can always recover myself. And again, this is another part of having the right attitude when you go to the board, when you go to do your practicing, when you go to play a game out in the pub, when you go to do anything. You've got to have the right attitude and you've got to be positive. When you get into a venue, what you've got to do is you've got to go and meet people and talk to them and get involved in the atmosphere that's around you. Because the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll become relaxed. If you go into a competition and you put yourself in a corner on a table and you sat there on your own and you don't talk to people and you don't start to mingle and stuff like that, the pressure starts to build on you. And what you're doing is isolating yourself, which causes you to go more introverted, which causes you to put more pressure on yourself. And I think people who've actually gone and done this at competitions will understand exactly what I'm saying. The way to combat that, like I say, is get in there and put yourself about. When you get into the venue, go and talk to people, go and talk to the organisers. That's what they're there for, that's what you've paid your entry fee for. Go and talk to them, ask them how many events they've run before, ask them how the day's going to work, how are they going to do the structuring of the games. I mean, obviously you'll know if you're going in for a Grand Slam, it's a kind of round robin sort of thing in groups and this, that and the other. If you're going into a straight knockout, you'll know it's a straight knockout, but if you go up, you'll be able to see the way that they're printing the actual forms out that they put on the wall to show you where you're actually going to play, familiarise yourself with the place, where the toilets are, very important, all that sort of stuff, just basically to get yourself relaxed. Now then, a long time before we actually get to going to a competition, number 4 is structured practice. And practicing, strengthening your focus and your concentration levels. Also in this is part number 5. So I'll talk about this as a bit of a group, but part number 4 and part number 5 really do link into each other. And part number 5 is learning to relax between throws. So basically when you're actually playing the game and between games, learning how to relax and how to structure what you're going to do. So basically, and again, this is going back again to making yourself familiar. If you've got through round 1 and 2, it's quite possible that in round 3, 4, or whatever they do, round 3, or into the quarter-finals, semi-finals, etc., the boards will change. Sometimes if the portable boards, will take so many boards out, they'll have less boards up, they'll be in different positions, and there'll be more of a spectator atmosphere as the day goes on. So you know what you need to do is you need to be aware of everything that's going to go on during the day. Keep going back, keep asking, talk to different dart players. Go up and talk to them about the darts and stuff like that. They're only like you are. They're quite open. Most people, there's not many people, to be honest with you, that won't actually talk to you. Even the top professionals, if you're in a situation where they're available, it's very, very rare they won't actually talk to you. And if you speak to them about the mental side of the game, they'll probably tell you a lot of what I'm telling you now. So your structured practice and you're strengthening your focus. There's many different types of ways that you can do this, and there'll be certain things that work for you and certain things that don't work for you. What works for me is breathing. What I do is I have a technique that I learned many, many years ago when I used to do martial arts when I was a young lad. And it's breathing out, drawing the energy up through your body and pushing the energy out either through your fingertips or out into the atmosphere around you. And I find that this works absolutely fantastic. And it's very similar to when a lot of these, what do they call them now? Like psychics, these people who put you under a trance. What they do is they tell you to walk down a set of steps to a beach, somewhere really nice, where you've got the sea lapping up on the shores and what have you, and that sort of thing can happen, that can help for people as well. So you're taking yourself to what the people call a happy place or whatever you want, but somewhere where you're actually more relaxed, more. It can be an holiday that you've been on, it can be all sorts of things, it can be anything that you think that you focus on. It can be somebody who's very important to you, it can be a place that's very important to you. You might even have your own like man shed in the back garden where you go and play your darts. Take yourself there when you're relaxing and when you think, you just let everything go from around you. Your concentration levels, what I tell a lot of people, and a lot of people when I'm doing coaching and stuff like that, is like your board. They have all these practice techniques and this, that and the other. If you've got a couple of boards, right, get an old one, and the thing to do is get a Sharpie. I get a Sharpie, and what I do is I put a little dot in the middle of the 60, and that is my focus point. Instead of like normally what people will do is they'll throw for the 60 bed. They'll throw, as I've said before, round the 60 bed, they're aiming generally towards the 60. Well, that's not what you want to do, because if you aim generally towards the 60, that's where your darts are going to go, generally in the general area of the 60. You need to pull that focus in and in and in. Same thing, what I do with your Sharpie is put a tiny little black dot in the middle of the finger, the bullseye, aim for that. Same with your 17s, because it's green. If you've got a black one, it'll still show up. But just put a dot in. I don't mean colour the centre in or anything like that. Literally just a dot on the end of the hairs in the middle of the 17. And focus on that spot. Throw your darts at that spot. And all that is doing is that is a nice and cheap and easy way instead of buying a practice board. So hopefully this has helped one or two of you. Like I say, there's going to be at least another 2 or 3, maybe even more than that, on the mental side of the games, because I'd like to go a little bit more in depth in not the practice regimes, but more when you actually go to competitions, and basically a bit more in depth into the mental side of the game. The way that you've got recent things that have been going on with Peter Wright and Rob Cross, I'd like to talk about stuff like that. So that's what I'll do in the next video. So thanks for watching Darts Hints, Tips and Advice with Dynamite Dave. I hope this video has helped one or two of you, and I hope it makes sense, because it makes sense to me. Right, so thanks very much, lads and lasses, and don't forget, as always, toe to the hockey.